Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's 1874 at Home. Thank you for all the feedback that you've given us so far. It's really appreciated, and hopefully we can keep that going over the next few weeks, making it better, keep evolving it. And today we're doing exactly that. This is one that I've been toying with for a couple of weeks now. Should we do it? Should we not? Because of various different things, but I'm so glad that he's agreed to do it. Ian Street, our first ever manager, how are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. Nice to see you.
That's
Thanks
good.
for asking me.
How's lockdown been for you then? Because for everyone it's been different. Everyone's done different things. Have you done anything that you wouldn't have necessarily done before that you've started doing during this?
I'm probably the best gardener in Wigan now.
Is that
Previous
self-acclaimed?
to that, I certainly wasn't. It's given me a lot of opportunities to sort the garden out, really. I was meant to be working from home, but I've not had the right token to actually get onto the systems. So I've just been at home, virtually like on call, but just in the garden doing stuff. So it's good days and bad days.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning then, really. Obviously, 1874 was a project that nobody knew how it would go down. We didn't know where we'd be. We never knew that we'd be at this stage now. What was it that attracted you to the club?
It was the concept of it. It was like starting something fresh, something new, and I didn't jump at it straight away. I had a conversation with Lee Duckworth. It would be like Christmas time, 2012, something like that, and he told me about, there's a new team being set up. I could break away from Northwich Victoria, and if you fancy it, and he said he interested. I also spoke about it, and I kind of mulled it over for a little while, and ended up ringing Paul Stockton, who just spoke to me like I was his best buddy, and he'd known me for ages. Didn't need to, but he filled me in on all the details and all. And I got off the phone and I thought, what a fantastic bloke. I didn't know him from Adam, and he spoke. He just gave me all the time that he had, and I just thought, this sounds just potentially so fantastic. It just sounded, the business, and I just thought, I've just got to do something about this. I have to be the man that does this. And I got invited in for an interview. I believe Brian Edge had spoken to a very good friend of mine at Skem United. He was the assistant manager, Brian Richardson. He put me a word in, and he said, you've got to get this lad in. And I had the interview, probably March, I think it was, something like that. Seems a hell of a long time ago now. March time, and they rang me up the day after and offered me the job, and I just jumped at it. I was absolutely made up, and bearing in mind, we didn't even know which league we were going to be in.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, I just took it for granted we'd be in the Northwest Counties, and then I kind of heard everything after. Well, it could be the West. What would it be? The Cheshire League. And I thought, oh, do I want that? It was and thankfully, the counties came through and we got in, and the rest is history, as I say.
I mean, do you not find it crazy in some ways that you, after speaking to Paul, you'd had your mind just dead set straight away that you wanted to be the man to take the club forward. You wanted to be the very first man, not knowing what league we'd be in, what the structure would be, like anything to do with the budget.
It's absolutely mad. It's mad, considering I'd been in the old Unibon and the Evo Stick leagues, managing in there, whether it be in charge or the assistant or something, to go from that to like not knowing what my future would be with this club. I'm not sure whether I could have done or wanted to be in the Cheshire League, because I started out doing that. I won the league with the old Goulburn Sports that are in the Cheshire League. We won the league and cup double 2 years running, and I just thought, do I really want to go to that standard again? And like I said, thankfully, it just, I don't know, it just felt right. It just felt special. I felt the enthusiasm in the interview. I felt the enthusiasm of the guys that were there doing the interview. I think it was a panel of 4. I just felt the buzz, even though I'm not from that area, you know. So I wasn't talking to local people or anything. I only had, like I said, Ducky and maybe a couple of others. I remember Conky texting me and saying, "Streety, you got to go for this. You got to, you know, I'll come with you. I'll do it." And I thought, there's a buzz. There's a real buzz about this. And like I said, thankfully, you know, it's been the best few years of my life, football life. It really was. It turned out that way. Obviously, I didn't know it was going to be like that, but that's the way it's been.
I think it really was an exciting project for everyone. I mean, I was a lot younger then. I think I was about maybe 12 or 13.
What was that?
I was 12 or 13 when the club started, but you still knew that it was something new. Everyone had the uncertainty surrounding it, what would happen. It was a lot of what ifs, but it was all built upon the passion. And I think what you've summed up there is almost the ethos of the club. Nobody necessarily knew what they were going to be doing, but they were going to throw themselves into it like you did. You threw yourselves into a project, not knowing what would happen, but it turned out to be the best few years, as you just said, is your football life. And for all of us, as soon as you understand what 1874 is about, you're hooked into it. I'll bring Carl Riley. He's a key example of that. He's struggled through illness the last few years, but he's coming back and he's getting there and he's getting himself back fit. And I think that is what 1874 is all about. So did you have any nerves then about joining the club once it was settled that we were going to be in the Northwest Counties?
Yeah. Because, I mean, being a manager in the past, you kind of you inherit a nucleus of players and this and this and this, but to have absolutely nothing was just like, you know, everybody could have just turned around and said, "Nah, I don't fancy it. Not feeling it. Not you know." But the reaction I got from players who I knew, I got Ducky involved straight away. Conky, we had a few meetings in the Windmill, just an excuse to have a pint really, but we had a few meetings in the Windmill. Got a list of players together. Obviously managers get players, but players get players as well. Ducky knew a lot of people. I managed to persuade him to leave Winsford United, his hometown club, who he absolutely loved. You know, got Conky there, and we got a list of names together. And it wasn't just I know him. I had an idea that, right, we've only got a chance to do this once. I would never do what I did again. I'm surprised if I did, but I'd never get the opportunity to do it. So I thought, this needs setting up properly. It needs the right kind of players, because players make the club, you know, eventually. And they certainly did at that time. It was the right kind of players. There were players on our list, so I thought, don't think he's got the right personality for it. You had to have a certain personality and behaviour about you that had to be the image of the club, you know. And thankfully, it's carried on. And you know, you get teams now want to beat the club, you've earned that right now. And it was, for me, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet or anything like that, but reaping the benefits now of clubs like holding 1874 in big respect now, and that comes from the beginning and how it was set up. You know, you wonder, like, why are people shutting up shop against us? Why are they being this? Why? It's a scalp, you know, to get a result against 74. But you've earned that now over all these years of doing things correct. You've earned that right. And that's why, you know, clubs look up to you, respect you, want to do well against you. And then they can turn around and say, beat 74, or got a draw, or narrow. You know, it's just, you've earned that right now. And that's why it was important early doors to get the right people involved. Probably better players that were on our list probably wouldn't have fancied it anyway, but I didn't believe that they were the right kind of people. You know, we had to get the likes of Mike Brandon, who was just 100% perfect match. You know, he was just thick as, but such a nice guy, and 100% effort on the pitch and for the club. That was the kind of people that we needed to get on board. Your Ryan Stewarts, your Danny Thomases, you know, they were going to attract other players of the same category of person and player down to the club, and that's what happened. So
that's really interesting, because it shows. I mean, one of the questions that was submitted by one of the fans was, did you make a conscious effort to build a team, or was it a case of picking the players that you wanted at first? But it actually shows there that it was a real conscious effort to find the player that matched the club. What would you describe the personality type of a player to be that you were looking for?
Yeah,
that would suit the club?
It certainly wasn't right. Well, we're going to need a left back. We're going to need this. We're going to need that. Because football never works like that. You kind of get what you get. You've heard it before. You've got to play the hand that you've been dealt. I had to get the right kind of players in just for training sessions to start off with, not even thinking of a team to take the field for the first game of the season. All that came after, because players who you get in, right, I'll get him as a centre mid, and then suddenly he's a defender, or, you know, it's because players can be versatile. So it was just a case of a nucleus of players that we needed to get in first. So that was, you know, that was the plan initially. I remember Conky sitting there, and if he ever watches this back, he'll say, Mike Brandon won't score any goals. He won't. That was his. We constantly reminded him about that afterwards. You know, me and Ducky looked at each other. I think Brandon. I'd obviously had Mike at Winsford, and I think he just needed some more local football. He was probably playing at Lostock at the time when we was considering, and he said, no, I don't think he'll come. And he came back and did what he did, you know, which we kind of knew. And that's what I said. We said to Conky, you sort of got that wrong. So yeah, it wasn't a conscious effort of picking a team. It was picking a squad of players that we could mould into a team.
Yeah, well, I think Conky did get that one a little bit wrong. I think I remember Mike scoring quite a few goals here and there.
The odd one.
Just the odd one.
The odd tap in.
But you mentioned players like...
I didn't fully answer the question then. The person I was looking for, the personality side of it needed to be, they were going to give 100% for the club, because it was pointless getting a bunch of superstars. I probably wouldn't have got a bunch of superstars, because what superstar is going to come, don't even know what league we're playing in, or first division or whatever it was then. I know it's been renamed now, or the second division, whatever the counties was. They're not going to come and play at that level, really, without. So the person needed to be approachable, because we needed to do things behind the scenes. Some players don't want to do that. They just want to come, play, pick the money up, off they go. We didn't. That would have been no good for the club, for the supporters. It needed to be a togetherness, and that's what I was looking for at the beginning. So sorry, man.
No, that's fine. No, I think it's interesting that you mentioned before that you didn't know much about the club. You heard it through Ducky, and Matt Conky messaged you as well. But straight away, you really got the ethos of the club. It's still the same. Now it's still people that are committed behind this. It's the same for people behind the scenes on the pitch. You've got to be 100% committed to the club to get involved in it. I think that is really interesting. And in one of those players you mentioned, Matt Conky, I mean, he was retired at the time, wasn't he? And you managed to get him out of retirement. Players like Mike Brandon that you brought in, and Matty Wood. I mean, these players that you brought in, we still all talk about on the terraces now, because you set that standard and you brought these players through. And everyone will remember these players. Everyone remembers singing "Oh, Michael Van Branden" at games because of the way that he set himself about. How important was it and pleasing was it for you to see that these players that you brought in pay off?
Oh, it was like, that's what's made it so good. That is honestly what has made it so good. I didn't do this for me. I made a few little notes down here at the side if you see me glimpse over. But The most memorable, where I realised we'd got this right, was away at Daisy Hill. If you remember, really, really early. It might have been the first away game. I'm not too sure the details. And I remember we'd just done the warm up. It was a lovely sunny day. I think it was actually my birthday, and I look and Daisy Hill's always been I'm from up Wigan Way, and Daisy Hill was always a big club. You know, not anymore, but me growing up, that's what they were. And I remember we'd done the warm up, and I was looking down all the touch line, and everybody had a drink in their hand. They were smiling, and I looked at people's faces. They were having such a good time. The lads were buzzing in the warm up, and I remember the wife came watching with my dad, and my nephew turned up. He used to watch Daisy Hill, and he didn't even know I was the manager of 1870. He didn't even know who they were playing that day. Couldn't park his car. He'd not, and he walked, and he shouted to me, "Oh, Glenn, oh, Glenn!" And I picked it, and I walked across. He said, "What's all this about?" He said, "It's like FC United, how it was." I said, "Well," I said, "This is it, you know." And I felt so proud then, and I felt like this is right. We've got this. This is something special. And it was all the smiling faces. It was all people looking forward. And it wasn't the best level of football, you know, far from it. It wasn't the finished article on the pitch. It wasn't. And I looked and I thought, this is right. This is going to go somewhere, you know. And thankfully, it has. And it's down to those lads on the pitch. Myself, Bo was being the assistant manager then, as well as Ducky. Ducky was playing. Bo wasn't playing. You know, so we got it right. It felt right, you know. And at the end of that game, we made hard work of it. We won the game, but I felt like some of the players, it wasn't still sinking in. And this is probably way before your time as well, Matt, watching. I don't know whether you were.
No, I was definitely stuck.
Yeah, I sat the players down in the bottom corner, and I railroaded them. And we'd won the game, and I said, "This is different. For wherever you played football before, this is different." And I said, "Look over there." And people were all still there, and they were ready for clapping the lads and everything. And I felt a bit bad doing it. But I said, you need to realise playing for this club is different from what you've been before. You can't come on here and be average. If you're going to be average, it isn't going to work for you. And I think there was a realisation then of, you know, and I used to stress it all the time. This is different. This is different. You know, it's all right doing it in front of one man and his dog. Wherever you've been, this is different. These people deserve. They put their neck on the blocks by breaking away from Victor, as it was the old. And I said, you've got to do better. You have to do better. If you're not willing to get on board, and they already knew that, but they just needed it hammering into them sometimes. So I knew it was special then, the Daisy Hill game.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. That, I mean, I think it sometimes goes maybe understated or not quite thought about to the extent of what that such a mammoth task was of building that squad. So I remember Paul Boyer spoke to me, the Al Sager team at the time of the season before, they'd sort of been disbanded and the manager had left. So a couple of players came over to 74, but he said that he remembers at the first training session that there was about 40 people turned up. How did you manage to whittle it down from such a massive number of players and whittle it down to the final squad?
It's just the usual process of elimination. Who's going to fit the team better? Who's better? It's the same pre-season after pre-season. I know it's new. It's a new club, but once we kind of put all the wheels in motion, things in place, I just treated it like a normal pre-season at somewhere else. You know, are you going to be better than him? that's once that initial pieces were in place, it needed just treating as a normal team. Then I couldn't think any differently than, right, this needs to be prepared now as a team. Like I said before, it's just we had to get a group of people, not necessarily who, square pegs in there, square and round in there, and it was just we had to get a group of people that we could eventually mould into it. So it's just a case of, could they cope with the level of fitness training? A lot couldn't. A lot were thinking like, oh, I think I might go down there. It sounds interesting. It sounds, and they weren't really. And it soon whittled itself away. Some couldn't cope with the level of training, of fitness that we was putting them through. By now, I think Bo was helping me sort all the training sessions out. So it was. I started ramping it up then. And players fall by the wayside. They kind of start realising themselves, well, I don't think I'll give it a bit of a go, because you always get the can my mate come? I thought, well, go on then, because you never know. It's somebody I didn't know, so I could have unearthed the gem. It didn't really work that way, and they soon dropped off. So eventually you're just left with the normal 20 players that you end up with. And then we went into pre-season and everybody got a chance, and then finally it's just a process of elimination, and it whittles itself down.
One of the players that he did bring in was Adam Foy. Now, Adam, I think I'll speak for every 74 fan really, Adam would have been one of the legends of the club, really. I mean, Adam, he came, I remember seeing him at pre-season at the end of last year, just came down to say hello to everyone, still keeps in contact with the club. I mean, I wasn't there at that game where he got injured that day, but it must have been awful seeing it from the sideline, seeing someone with such a talent and such a focal point around the team, having his career just completely taken away from him.
That broke my heart, that. Honestly, it did. It was... I could get upset now just even thinking about that, because when he did it, when he immediately looked at me, I heard the crack, I heard it, and we all winced, and he kind of looked at me, and just, I'm sure he kind of mouthed, man, like, I just felt it now. I had to walk off. I was in tears, because I know what he'd gone through just to even get back on the field. He'd had a broken leg before. He'd had his ACL rebuilt from his hamstring, the muscle, and that lad had been through hell just to even get on back onto a football pitch, and it's happened again. I was absolutely gutted for him. That's got to be the worst time being involved in football. It really was so bad. Yeah, and he was the model 74 player, 100% on the pitch, 100% behind the scenes. Would do anything for anybody. It's such a shame. I'm really glad he's kept in touch with the club. That's good.
Yeah, I think everyone is. It's those sorts of things where something horrible happens, but the club was still in contact with these players. He still stays in contact with the club. And I think I mentioned it before, it's with a similar story with Kyle, obviously with illness, but 74 touches you and you stay in contact with the club. You want to still be a part of it. You'll still keep an eye out for how the club does. Now, at the end of that's the first season, we finished third, but we got promoted. And one of the games that I remember that season, it wasn't in the league, but it was in the Mid-Cheshire Cup at Witton Albion, and we narrowly lost 3-2. But it was that game, we completely outnumbered Witton in the support. There were 2 leagues above us at the time, and we absolutely we ran them around all game and narrowly lost. I mean,
Is that the one Conkey wasn't available for?
Yeah, he wasn't available. Yeah, but I remember him hanging over the barrier most of the game, really, there.
Yeah, and I know the one now, yeah. Yeah, it was, that was yeah. The Witten games were just I don't know. They were like a personal thing for you guys down there, really. Yeah, it was unfortunate that it was a late. I'm not blaming the lad who came in, but he wasn't really up to it on the night. He wasn't anyway. We'd been hanging on with Conky, thinking, oh, he may be fit, and then really late on, he said, I don't think I am going to be, and goalkeepers of that level to come in such a big game, it just so. I got the lad. He'd been playing at Rylands before they were. I mean, they're quite decent now, but years back, he was just. Stuart Wellstead put me onto him, and I'd never seen. Stu said he's not bad, and that's all. That's all we had to go off. I think he dropped one, gave a penalty. I'm not even sure of the circumstances, but it was. I think if we'd have had Matty, it would have been a slightly different game. But yeah, the occasion, we'd lost, and we all went across and got applauded. It's we gave all we could.
And you also gave all you could the year after as well, when we did beat Witten. When we beat them 3-0. We beat them 3-0. That was a fantastic game. I mean, that season,
it was.
Again, we finished 4th that season in the league above. We had a great year, scored 90 goals, conceded 35. I mean, that's a phenomenal record in itself. In the league that year, we played some great football that season, and we saw the link up between players like Mike Brandon, Matty Beadle, Ryan Jackson, Tyler Edwards, Matty Ward, all these players playing together, and we played Witten off the pitch that game. That must have been great for you to see.
It was, yeah, definitely was. Yeah, I mean, nobody likes losing a cup final or anything like that. Cup finals, you just want to win. So the result was, but the occasion as well, it was just the support that night was just something else. Absolutely. It was unbelievable. And it was special. It was special. I'd done a bit of, I think I'd watched Witten a couple of games previous to us playing them. I remember going over to New Mills watching. I think when New Mills used to be in the Evo State, I don't forget what it was called then. And I put a bit of a plan together, and it worked. When it works, and you've done, your scouting bit on it, and you put your plan in place, and things, work out, then as a manager, you can't ask for, as long as your players give 100% and do what's expected and play to the plan, and it comes off, there's no better feeling as a manager. And walking across and giving the cup to Paul was just icing on the cake for that. Yeah, really good.
I mean, the relationship that just appeared between Beadle and Brandon for that season and the following one was superb, wasn't it? I mean, Beadle's goal scoring record was excellent. How did that signing come about, and how pleased were you to see that it paid off in the style it did?
The Matty Beadle signing?
Yeah.
I'd watched who did he play? It was Main Road against Ashton Athletic final in the Challenge Cup the season before. And I remember watching Beads and thinking, he's not bad, that lad. And he'd come up from Bristol way, he'd been at Bristol Rovers, and I thought, he's decent, that lad. And they took him off. I think they took him off at half time, something like that. And I thought, he'd been holding everything up. He'd looked dangerous, and Aston went on and won the game. And I thought, it's something about that lad. And I think during the pre-season, I could be wrong. It's so long ago now. I think it was Chappie. Chappie put me on to Matty Beadle, and I thought, oh, I don't need any persuading for this. I got them down. I think Connors came down as well. And they trained, and I had a conversation with them at the end of training. Do you like what you see? And they loved it. And they said, well, give us a couple of days till the next training session. We'll come down again, and we'll have made our mind up. And anyway, managed to persuade them to. I didn't manage to persuade them, but they both had made their mind up that that's what they wanted to do, and they were on board. Yeah, so it just came. So it was linking up. Beads and Brandon are very similar players, but another respect to Beads. Beads could be lazy. Beads had the younger. He was young coming through. Mike already knew he was coming to kind of the end-ish. Brandon was more. I could tell Mike to do. Mike sometimes dropped into like what they call between the lines. He would drop into that hole sometimes, just off Beads, and then join in with him after. And it just worked. It just worked because the Barton Stadium pitch certainly wasn't the best. So sometimes we needed a real tough, strong, big player in there to help Beads, to help to flick things on that he could feed off, rather than just having a big guy stuck up top. The idea was to play Mike Brandon more in a 10, and he could, and then they would just feed off each other because Beads was a clever player. Like I said, he was a little bit lazy, and you had to constantly be on to him. Whereas Mike, he would just do things naturally. He understood the game so well. It's like the Mike Brandon show, this, isn't it? You could play Mike anywhere. Honestly, you could. I know I said he was big, but you could play him. You could play him in midfield. We played him Saturday. He can play at the back. He's just something about Mike that he just knew football. He just knew it, and Beads started to latch on to. They just developed. It just it wasn't. I knew it would work because I knew Mike could do that, and I knew Beads could do what he could do. So, but it wasn't a conscious of these two will really work well together. It just did, So yeah, like I said, I think Chappie said Beads is interested in coming down. He'll be this. Yeah, brilliant. Get him down.
They mentioned the Barton Stadium pitch there, and we won't go into too much detail on it, but it wasn't the most easiest of surfaces to play on. How difficult was it to create a style of play that you could you could go confidently try to say this might work on here? Because obviously different surfaces cause different problems to the away games, but you want your home ground to be more so consistent.
People didn't realise how difficult it was to play on there. Soon as when I got the job, we've just been talking about this league we were in. We didn't even have a ground. We didn't know where we were going to be playing. Bear in mind, I'd just done 3 seasons, not two before that, at Winsford United, playing manager at Winsford. And when they said we're at the Barton Stadium, I thought, oh my God. So it was just, like I said, people don't realise how difficult it was to play. It was difficult to walk across to the dugouts. Never mind play football. I used to look down and think, how are lads doing this? I'm asking Wardy and that type of player to play, because I wanted to play attractive, attacking football. And you're looking at it, thinking, it doesn't even roll. The ball doesn't even roll. How are we even doing this? It was shocking. It's funny, really, because last week I was just skimming through YouTube on like bits of football things, and I remember we'd beaten AFC Liverpool 1-0, and it was one of their players. They were doing a short 5-minute interview at the end of, and he turned around. It was in the where they used to do the food, and he turned around. And he said, well, we know what they've done. They've not cut the pitch and they've left it on because to stop us playing. And I thought, how wrong you are. That's just and that just summed it up. Teams used to come and completely change their teams just for the surface. I remember talking to Wilkes here, Paddy, and he just put loads of big lads out, because you just needed big lads, powerful lads to play on Barton. and it's difficult. It's difficult from day one. I remember saying to Vicky, this is no disrespect to Winsford. It's not meant to be. The longer we stay at Winsford, we'll start going backwards. You know, it's just, it won't do us any good. And it's hard to, one week you're playing on a decent pitch, you know, and play well, and then suddenly we're at home the week after, you know, and players are thinking, well, we're meant to be playing this way, but we can't, because, you know, we can't do that for the whole game. You know, sometimes it's just got to get it forward. You just got to do this. You have to play to what you're playing on sometimes, and it's frustrating. So it was the move away. I'm glad it's happened, but I wish it would have happened for me, but it didn't. So
yeah. So I'm going to bring you back to a story that links to the question after. But when you joined the club, there was a conversation between yourself and the board about what sort of budget there would be. And you mentioned to me, you asked them about, are we shopping at Aldi, or are we shopping at Sainsbury's or something like that? Yeah. Just talk us through that story.
Well, when I got, just give me a second. There's a guy cutting wood outside. Sorry, Matt. Yeah, when I got the job, obviously things weren't in place. The guys on the committee, certainly no disrespect to them, were used to running football teams. They didn't know what was, so it's, and I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know what secretaries should be doing, and you know, I just, it's always just been there for me. So it's kind of hard, and so obviously we just had a few meetings between ourselves, and they would say to me, what do you think we'd need for this, and what do we need for that, and how do we go about this? And so I remember I was having a meeting in the Penny Black in Northwich, and I sat down with 4 or 5 of the guys, and we sat there, and I said, well, what are you thinking budget wise? I said, obviously we've been accepted into the counties then, so it's you know, I needed some kind of idea of what of the caliber of player I could go for. You know, it's pointless going for somebody who wants hundreds of pounds and I've only got a tenner for him. You know, so I happened to say, like, right, where am I shopping? Am I shopping at Aldi? Am I shopping at Asda? Or am I at Waitrose? You know, what? And they kind of looked at me and like went, oh, right. So they gave me a figure, and I said, so it's little. And they like went, do you not think it's? I said, well, if you could go a little bit more, it gives me more. That's every manager says that. Just a little bit more. And eventually I was kind of Asda. It was kind of Asda shopping, you know, which wasn't for that level. That was fine. I was fine with it. You know? Yeah. And as time's gone on, it went maybe a couple of years after Tesco, slightly better. But yeah, that was that's true. That.
So linking to that then, well, at the start of the 16-17 season, I think it maybe did reach that Tesco stage with the players that you managed to bring in that year. Because I was looking, I went through yesterday, the players that you brought in at the start of that season were Greg Hall, Matty Russell, Eddie Moran, Sam Hines, Scott McGowan, Sam Hare, Tom Bailey, Aaron Kirk, Mark Jones, Rick Bailey, Shelton Payne, Jason Carey. All these players that joined during that season at some stage. I mean, some of the names in there still play for the club now. Some of them in there, they've been at Glossop when they won the league and got to the FA Vars final. Yeah. At the start of that season, what were your thoughts in terms of the targets for that year? Was there a conscious effort between yourselves and the board where you had a conversation, thought, we're going to try and win the league this season? Was there that sort of conversation, or?
It was kind of a subconscious thing.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, every football club wants to do as well as they can do. It wasn't right, give me a bit more money and let's try and win the league. It wasn't that. It was always, the club was always helpful and understanding, and you know, if the player was right and we thought we could do it. I mean, I never got paid. I never got paid for the first couple of years, something like that. And then I started to get a little bit of something, and just gave it all away. I was paying clean sheet bonuses, goal bonuses, you know, which is when you start doing a little bit better, lads start coming and saying, is there any chance I can, you know,
they can get a little bit more as well.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It was just, so there was never a conscious, like, give me more money and let's try and win the league. It was like, because we were still a brand new club, still finding our feet, you know, that potentially could make a few mistakes that end up so costly, you're back to square one.
Yeah.
So it was a really gradual thing.
Yeah.
I think the key was to get back into Northwich. That was always the first and only most important thing. You know, you just need to play back in your own town. That just works. That is the final piece. So it was just let's just stepping stones. The next step is the squad's got to be stronger, have that little bit more quality, you know, and let's just kick it on. Let's just you know. So they would never come to me and say, we want to win the league. We want to, you know, people were just like, don't get me wrong, I wanted to win the league. The players wanted to win the league. Everybody both wanted to win the league. That's what you want. That's what you play football for. You know, if you're a winner, that's what you want. But no, the board would never put pressure on. They just wanted to do well. They were still enjoying the football, turning up, being proud of the club, being proud of the team, and you know, it's you know.
How helpful was that? How helpful was that as a manager then? You know, not almost being set specific targets, just having the passion from them, just wanting you.
That's what made it great. That is what made it great. I mean, I like I say, I was still ambitious. I wanted to. I just so much wanted to win every game, every, you know. But it was still big in my mind to win things, to just do well and keep the togetherness of the supporters and the players and the club, and that for me, that was the most important. It wasn't about. It sounds a bit of a negative, really, but I wanted to win the league, but it wasn't the most important thing to me. It wasn't the Ian Street show where I want to win the league for me, my CV, because I was getting so much joy in everybody just enjoying, turning up, being proud of the club, and that's all it was for me personally. So it made it so much easier that there's no thumb on the back of my head saying you will win the league, you should be winning the league, you should be doing this, because there were the club paying more money than us, you know, and they were probably being told we should be doing this. So it made my job easier.
Yeah, I think for that 16-17 season, I think quite a few people did tip us to win the league potentially. When you go around, you visit teams, you saw the calibre of the players that we brought in, which was excellent recruitment. I mean, the names in there, everyone knows them at this level. You know, you're Tom Bailey, Scott McGowan, Mark Jones, coming down from Nantwich at that point. They're excellent signings.
Yeah.
And obviously the season didn't quite go to plan as we'd all hoped for. I think that was a thing. What was it about that season that necessarily didn't go quite to plan, do you think?
I think it's just, I said before, it was so important to get away from the Barton Stadium. It sounds like I'm just having a go at Winsford all the time, but it's just the pitch, it's just awful. It's just awful. You know, it just, I'm kind of seeing now, when I've been back and watched games, there seems a more confidence and a more structured way of playing. And I think that comes from a better home environment. I'll be honest, when early doors, when there was a cup draw, I wanted an away fixture all the time. I was hoping for whoever away in whichever cup. That's not right. You know what I mean? So I just think it was the pitch didn't help us, because 1 minute we'd be playing on a decent pitch, and I'm repeating myself a little bit, and the next minute we're slugging around at home and or getting cancelled, the game postponed. And there was 1 year I remember I think we played the first week in December and then didn't play a game till the middle of February. You know, and it's just, I know recently you've had it with the VARs run and everything, and the amount of games you had to play to catch up and everything. But we was getting that every year, virtually every year. We were playing catch up all the time, and it's tough. It's tough. You know, so I think, like I say, watching the team now, I think the difference is you're playing on a decent surface. I mean, I've not been to Barnton this season or last season, whatever you were calling it, but I know the surface was a hell of a lot better. You know, so I think you can get the right kind of players playing the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one signing that I did miss out was in the coaching staff, and that was Wayne Goodison. What was it that made you bring in Wayne during that season?
Yeah, well, I hadn't worked with Goody before. I obviously knew him, but I'd never worked with him. But from talking to players, I knew Goody was a top coach. I knew that. And I just felt we needed that little bit of know-how and setting up, because I was doing a lot more kind of watching other teams and sourcing players, and I just felt it needed something else. And I also felt that Bo needed, it was somebody else for Bo to listen to. Don't get me wrong, Bo was new to it all, and I'm not disrespecting him or anything like that, but I knew he was interested when he got the job. I'm going back a bit now, but I knew he'd applied for the job initially, the 1874 job. So I knew he was interested in the management side of it. So that's why I got him on board. And I just felt Goody would help Bo, because it was never my, you know, I was only going to go maybe one more season, giving things away here really. But previous to Bo and Goody getting the job, I'd already had the conversation saying, at the end of the season, I'm probably going to step down. So the idea was gradually, Bo, and I'd had the conversation with Paul, and I said, listen, mate, I said, the jobs, you know, should be yours. I said, and I went into the meeting. I think we played a game one Saturday, and I got and so they all looked at me like, what's this? And I said, so I told them what I was thinking. So there was a bit like, well, who's gonna? And I said, Bo should step up. But I said, Bo's there now. He's got Goody with him. You know, I said they'll be fine. They'll be fine. And the club was a bit like, and I said, trust me. I said they're right. They'll be good. It was my idea to kind of move just into the back, into the, I don't know, the behind the scenes kind of roles. You know, I was coming down, and it's a hell of a long way. I'd moved house, and I just thought I just need to step away from it. It's time for Bo and Goody to take it on. It came a bit earlier than I expected. It was meant to go to the end of the season, and then I'd just like drift away in the final weeks. So that's how that came about. But Goody's a top coach, and you know, you talk to any player that's, and I knew he could do that. his sessions are fantastic, and I knew that because it was all in the beginning. It was all me, and Bo would just like do his bit, but Bo got gradually better and better and better, and I knew Goody would just be perfect for the club and for the lads. He just. So that was, I had a bit of a kind of a long-term idea in my mind with that one, with Wayne. I'm glad he's still there.
Well, I think you're exactly right on that. Wayne is a fantastic coach. I've been down to training this morning, watching them how they do it, a couple of interviews. And training now is even more harder because of the social distancing measures that you've got to put in place for your different groups. And just watching it unfold, that you're still managing to get an extremely good quality training session going on within this circumstance, I think that's just phenomenal. One of the things I was going to ask you about that season was to do with, did you ever feel more as the season sort of went on that that Atherton Coles were just maybe one or two steps ahead of us during the season, that we were never quite onto the pace? I felt like, for me personally, it was the Atherton Coles game where we lost 1-0 away from home against them. That maybe that was that game where it sort of went, we aren't going to make it this season. What was it for you?
We were playing a bit of catch up again, for what had gone on or not gone on earlier on in the season, and we were that points difference behind. I don't know. It was probably something like 6, and if we'd have won it, we'd have got to 3, but it went to 9. It was a deciding factor, and I don't think we deserved to lose on the. It was a bit of a mess up from a corner, and they scored from like a yard, something like that. We fell asleep at something, and they'd taken something quick. They'd gone straight across the touch line, and it was a bit of a scrappy goal, and it was just like. So after that, it was kind of, we're probably just going to miss out. That was you're spot on with that. Yeah, that was probably the one, really. So
I think there was another thing during the season for me that I felt was because of the quality of the squad that you'd assembled, is that naturally that some players were going to miss out, or if they weren't missing out, they were maybe playing in a position, you mentioned before player versatility, but they were playing in a position that maybe didn't come natural to themselves. And there was one game, I think it was the Runcorn Linnets game. Lee Jones had been sent off really early on for 2 bookings. We 1-0 up at the time. And Jason Carey seemed to slot back into midfield when Matt Woolley was on the bench. And it was, what was your thinking behind those sorts of decisions, maybe moving players to play in a position that they weren't necessarily comfortable in? Do you think that maybe had a factor in the season at points especially when we were playing catch-up? Or
you do what you feel's right at the time, rather than throw a new body on and take somebody off who's already up to speed in the game. Like you said, we were winning the game 1-0. I'd seen Tom Bailey did the same. He dropped wide right. I think we were on the day we were playing a new lad, Harry Pratt.
Yeah, he was starting.
Yeah, I think that was his first game, something like that. So he went central. I'd seen Tom Bailey do the role we kind of asked him to do with 10 men. I'd seen him doing for Glossop numerous times. I knew that he didn't like doing it, and Jason had to. But I just thought, well, let's kind of see what we can do with the lads that are already on the field, because they knew what to do. They're experienced players. Rather than make loads of changes that could have gone wrong anyway, let's try and hang on as you do with 10 men, and just try and hit them on the break or something like that. And not, once they got the equaliser, it was a game we needed to win. So, like you said, with the Coles one, we needed to win that one. I can't forgive Lee for getting sent off. We'd warned him just before that. He'd thrown a rash challenge in at some, and we were trying to calm him down, but he was that fired up. He went across, and it was a stupid tackle, absolutely stupid tackle, and it put us up against it. And it just didn't. Once Linnets got the equaliser, we never did well against them anyway. Even with 11 men, we never got. Best we got was a draw. We were just one of those bogey teams. We just couldn't hang on to it. 10 men against a team that was absolutely flying. It just didn't go our way. Just didn't go our way. You know, but that's the gamble you take. You know, if it had worked out, we'd have hung on. It would have been, it was a good decision to just drop it back in and leave, but it didn't. It didn't. So.
Yeah, like you said, the decisions get made in the moment, and hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
and I think
we're all experts after. You know,
yeah, we're all wiser after the event.
Should have done this. Should have done that. Should have, you know.
Yeah, but that's football essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
And another moment where you can look back with hindsight. Do you think almost did we make too many signings across that season? Could you see that as something that maybe slightly affected it? Because there were a lot of players that came, and you mentioned there was Harry Pratt came in that season. I think Dougie Carroll was another striker that came in that season as well. And there were a couple of players that came in, and when, in hindsight, do you think maybe too many were made, so nobody really settled? Or
Dougie Carroll didn't. He came with a big reputation of doing well up at Mosley, but just wasn't trapping at the time. He just wasn't getting picked. I just thought, well, we needed to, like I said, we was playing a bit of catch up, and we needed somebody to come in, hit the ground running, and get us some goals. I mean, I think Scotty had possibly moved on a little bit earlier than that, but Scotty was going through a bit of a lean spell, shall we say. He maybe got one goal in 10 or 12 games, something like that, and it wasn't going to see us over the line or give us a chance to get closer. That's why Jason Curry came in, and he didn't really do the business for us, which was unfortunate. I mean, Jason Curry's scored goals everywhere he's been, but coming in, just it didn't work out, and we kind of I wouldn't say we made too many signings in hindsight. I just think the lads that came in just didn't do the business, whereas you can get 98 lads that do and 2 don't out of 100. They were they were the 2. It was just, no, I don't think we made too many signs. Don't forget, we were trying to do the small steps again and try and get the quality of the squad higher. And that's what we was trying to do.
Well, I think you're right there, because I think the quality of the squad, it was clearly there to see that the players that you'd signed, look where they are now. Greg Hall, playing in the Everstick Premier Division now. Matt Russell, Sam Hare, Scotty, they're all still all with the club and playing brilliantly for us. So I think the quality of the squad, there's absolutely no question that was there. But obviously that Runcorn Linux game was your last game in charge of the club.
It was.
Looking back on your time at the club then, what does 1874 mean to you as a club?
To me personally, I mean, I said in the first, it was the best time, and me and Vicky reminisce, and I've got to give a shout out to Vicky. Vicky's been absolutely, you are so lucky to have Vicky. She was just, I mean, she's always keeps in touch virtually every day with either an email or a text message or something. We always, we do reminisce and say, oh, I wish it was all starting again. Wish it was this. It was honestly the best 4 seasons I've had as a manager. I'm so gutted that it ended the way it ended. And if I have one regret, it would be for it not to end the way it did. But this is from the heart. I wish we could have done things a little bit better sometimes. It's no secret that I hated that forum. It just, and I think the club, not that I ever look on it now, but I think people have learned from it as well, not to be, some of the comments on there used to be devastating, absolutely devastating, you know, and towards the end, I felt like I was trying to win games for the wrong reasons. I spoke earlier, saying everybody's happy, that's why I tried to win football games, or we tried to win football games, to make everybody happy. Towards the end, I was trying to win football games to shut people up. You know,
do you think
that's not right.
Do you think in some respects, again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But the forum is a position where fans can voice their opinions, no matter how right or stupid that they are. I think the forum, you know, if you're going to offer a comment, it has to be constructive and it has to be within reason, and you have to really balance your points out and make them clear to go on there. But as a manager, do you think almost that looking on the forum didn't necessarily help things in the end with hindsight because of the things that you saw? Or
yeah, no, it didn't. It didn't help looking at the forum, and I used to get Brian Edge, Paul saying, "Ian, don't look on it.
Do you think you were more drawn that the more things that you saw, you almost go looking to see if anyone else has said anything, or if any more comments had been said? Do you think it was almost a bit of a spiral that you got yourself caught into?
That's what I'm saying, Matt, about I was trying to win games to shut these people up, you know, and that wasn't right. That's not the reason I signed up for this. It was to I was more concerned about the small number that was kind of giving myself and the players stick, you know, and we'd lose one game, there'd be 100 and odd comments on the forum because we'd lost one game, and then the next month we'd get club of the month, and then we'd lose one game and there'd be another 120 comments, and then we'd win club of the month. I'm thinking, like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
I mean,
go on.
No, go on.
And I believe, like I said, I think people have learned from it now, because it's my only one regret is finishing that way. Like I said, I'd planned to finish at the end of the season, and it was a gradual thing for Bo to step in and go there, and I just thought, somebody said something, and I just thought, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this now? You know, I just thought, I might as well just step away from it now. And it just it just aggravated me so much that a small number of people was affecting things so much, the running of the club. And I just thought, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted. So there's a feeling of massive regret that way. But if people have learned from it, then fantastic.
I think there's regret from all people involved. I think, but in terms of the in terms of the forum, that's a what's the word? It's a piece where people can post on that doesn't necessarily get used masses anymore. So I think technology and things have moved on, and I think in some respects now social media takes the forefront of that, and I think, you know, many people are wise after the event of things that happened. Everyone,
but at the time that was affecting a lot. I remember Jamie Tandy coming to me after he'd played his first couple of games. He came to me and he said, "Why does everybody hate me?" And I went, "What are you on about, Jamie?" He said, "I've been reading the forum. They're calling me fat. They're calling me this. They're saying I'm this and I'm lazy and I'm this." Jamie Tandy's he's one of the best non-league players. You know, eventually, we saw that. But Jamie Tandy's ex-Manchester City, and he's just one of the sweetest left foots you'd ever get to see. And he's coming to me and saying that. You know, I'm thinking, this is just so damaging. You say about not reading it. I had a spell of not reading it.
Yeah.
Right? One game, I turned up and we'd done the warm-up. It was at New Mills. We were playing New Mills. And I came out. If you've ever been to New Mills, all the changing rooms behind the top goal.
Yeah.
And I remember the lads had gone out, and I obviously one of the last ones out. And I'm walking down the steps, and somebody stopped me and said, "Ian," he said, "Don't take on board what they're saying on the forum. We're behind you. We're behind you." So immediately I'm thinking, what are people saying on the forum? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a chance, even me not looking at it. People are saying things like that. So I want to know what people are saying then.
Yeah. And it is unfortunate, and I think it's one of those things, as we've said, people are wise after the event, and I think it's a learning curve for everybody in how to see a situation. And I think now this is a good time to have these conversations like we're having now, because it's separated from when it happened. The dust has settled on these issues now, and we can openly talk about them. So I think it's important.
It doesn't affect my feelings towards the club or anybody there. I will always be, when I come back and watch games and people come to me and shake my hand and say, "How you doing?" It's such a good feeling. It really is. You know, I've never had anybody that's given me a hard time. No need to really, but you know, like I say, it doesn't affect. I wish the club all the best. I really do. You know,
and I think it's important as well that we speak about these sorts of things, not only with that season. I thought it was important to talk about it so you can share your opinions on that season, but also more importantly to talk about what it took to build the club in that mammoth job. And I think that's something that everybody at the club will forever owe you, for the way that you set up the club and hearing about the type of personality, the players that you put together. You know, some players that you'd think they might be a better footballer, but they are going to fit the club. And I think that's actually really refreshing to hear that you looked at players and thought, you know what, we need a personality type like them. It shows that you really bought into the ethos of the club, and that's something that I think I can say on behalf of all the fans and I can thank you for, because as you said before, you set the standard to see where the club is now, and I think that's so important. Moving on,
I appreciate that, Matt, and I'm sure, like I said, when I go, people wish me well and say thanks and talk about old times, and so it's just, but it's a two-way thing, you know. I thank the club for giving me the opportunity. I thank the supporters for cheering us along, and it's two-way, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, moving on to a more fun slightly section, what would you be?
Has that not been fun?
Oh, that's been fun, but we've just. So
sorry, I've been a bit.
No. It's great. What would be your 74 five-a-side team?
Obviously, I've seen virtually every one of these, so I have got it wrote down. I've got to go Conky in goal, because sometimes he's just unbeatable. You know, even in the 11-a-side, I know we're talking about five-a-side, but there's games where you think you ain't going to beat Conky today. You know, so Conky in goal. I've gone for more attacking minded on this, because it is five-a-side. It's a totally different game. But at the back, Danny Thomas, because unless you know Danny five-a-side, he's got legs everywhere. It's just like you're ready to pile off a shot, and suddenly this size 9 comes in from somewhere, and you just think, how's he got to that? So DT, I've gone for Rick Bailey, because he's technically so good in small spaces and just really good at five-a-side. Sometimes his 11-a-side is a little bit, because he can be away and off, and it's just a loose cannon. Like Lee Jones is a loose cannon with his tackles and chappy, and I mean that in a fun side. Rick Bailey would just be a loose cannon. He'd just be off, and you're thinking, like, you're just leaving us. He just so hard to control. But at five-a-side, he was the business. And two little rabbits after that, Wardy and Scott McGowan. I mean, Scott's there just because he just scores goals. But Wardy, you just couldn't touch him. at five-a-side. I think virtually everybody's said Wardy, and he's just something else. Absolutely something else. I'm naming an extra one because I think Mr. Versatile, Matt Woolley, needs to be in there because you need a substitute.
Yeah.
Because if anybody gets tired, so I've got Woolley waiting in the wings. That's mine.
Now you might have heard this next question about would you rather. I normally say, would you rather fight one duck-sized Scott McGowan?
I just don't get these.
Or 100 duck-sized Scott McGowan. I'm going to change it this week. Would you rather fight one duck-sized Louis James or 100? Hold on, no, I've messed up again. Every single week I'll mess up this question so it gets to me. Would you rather fight one Louis James-sized duck or 100 duck-sized Louis James?
I'd rather just fight Louis James because he's soft as. But just the one.
Just the one.
One, yeah.
Right, and we'll move on to our Twitter questions. This is from the 1874 Fan Engagement Twitter account. Are you looking to get back involved in football in the future?
It depends. There's involved and there's involved. I don't think I'm going to be a manager again. Probably the assistant manager would be as much as it got. But even that can be, depending where you are, even that can be proper full on. Things are better for me now. Over the past few years, I've had a bit of, I wasn't able to give anything 100%. That's kind of what finished my time over at Congleton. I had some problems with my dad after my mum dying, and I just couldn't give football 100%. I'm in a different situation now. Things are okay with my dad, so I am able to. I'm probably able to, but because it's just been a few years now, I'm kind of out of it. I'm out of people's thought processes. Whereas in the past, it were like, "Oh, I get sweetie, and I'll do that." You know, it just so it's getting. If somebody came up with something and put it to me, I would probably consider it now. I've not applied for any. Well, I've applied for one job since I've finished my three seasons ago, whatever it is. So that's I've not been, but I'm in a different place now. So I probably would, but I'm not looking to really. But something could come out of the woodwork. Who knows?
Yeah. What are the main differences from your time at the club from when you were a manager to what you see of it now?
Well, for one thing, I don't see enough of it because I haven't looked at loads of games. I've not watched. I've only maybe been to 2 or 3, so I can't really see. I would imagine it's the same behind the scenes because pretty much it's the same people, and I know what they can do, and I know what they're about. I would say it's run with a more. This is decrying what I did really. Professional attitude to it. It seems a bit more, and it's what I was saying about having a decent pitch to play on and a good setup at Barnton. I've only seen the pictures of it. I'd planned on coming to a game before this crazy situation kicked in. Looking at I can only go off looking at the team. The team seems more able, whereas in the past it was powerful. It was a powerful team because of the circumstances of the Barton Stadium and you know the type of football we were playing. I would have liked to have played. I would have liked to have gone to somewhere decent when I had that group of players because I feel we really could have done something then. So I look at the team now and I think they play some really good stuff. you know, and it just seemed so. Those are that's the only difference I can see really. It's a bit more. It's structured better, which comes from getting Goody on board. I don't mean Bo doesn't have a contribution or anything, but he was similar to myself. He wanted a style of play. I wanted that style of play, but for a goalkeeper to roll it out to a fullback on the button, you know, you can do it so many times before you get caught. You know, it bobbles over the foot or something. I feel that the team's more structured now, and you're seeing the differences. You know, winning so many games and doing so well.
Yeah. The final two questions. If you could do your time again, what would you do differently, and would you do anything differently?
I wouldn't do anything differently. No, because I've already said it. It's been the best for 4 years, 4 seasons. So I wouldn't do. I've got the regrets, which I spoke about with the people not thinking before criticising players, but I wouldn't change a thing, you know. And I said, me and Vicky get in touch and say, oh, it's so good. I wish we could go here. I wish it was all. I honestly don't think I wouldn't change a thing. No. I'm a bit stubborn. I think Bo said that in his, you know, if I know something's right, then I kind of go with it. So, and that's how it's been, really.
And finally, what's been your highlight at 74?
I think it's just the realisation. I mean, without repeating myself again, I know it's easy to say, oh, well, we could say the Witten winning the cup or doing well in the league or something like that. It was the realisation of that we have something special. You know, I really enjoyed the Sports Direct. You know, right at the beginning. You were still at school then, right? All those years ago, beating Rushton and Diamonds, the three, and I just thought, we're on our way. We you know, this is that and the Daisy Hill, but it's the realisation of this is good, this is special. So that's that's my best moment. Just feeling a part of something and feeling that I personally have done some good with all this. So that.
And that is something that you will always feel a part of, and something that should always feel special. Ian, it's been fantastic speaking to you. It really has been. Yeah. I think we've covered a lot.
Sorry, I've gone on a bit.
No, do you know what? I think it's important. It's been longer than the other ones, but I think it's important that it is, because I think it's important that you have these conversations, and it gives people an understanding of things that went on in the early days, and as your time progressed to where the club is now. I think it offers a chance for you to speak about your time at the club, and I think it's always important to let people have their say. So, Ian, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Once again, please can you leave us all your comments below who you'd like to see featuring later editions, and we shall see you all next week.